are really, we have just really worked ourselves to the bone on it. A whole lot of us have. A lot of us are out of money, out of energy, out of time. We're split off in so many directions, like, for example, right around here, they're fighting for water. Then Kirk Watson wants to put these new toll roads in. I mean, it's just, oh, and the smart meters aren't working in our homes. And now we're hit with this thing about the education system. And by the way, okay, so the question is, what do we do about that? And when I sit down, we'd also like to know who was that state representative that bought those books for people.
Well, that was in Washington State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and actually, books have been purchased for all the sheriffs in the state of California.
Okay.
And there was a sheriff's project. I don't know how that's going, but getting all the books, getting the book to a sheriff in the U.S., which I think would be good. You want your sheriffs on board. One thing, definitely, this is true. We get burned out. We get exhausted. You need to remember to take care of yourself. And also what you want to do is focus in on what it is you're working on and assist others in focusing in on what they're working on. Obviously, what happens is when people get elected, they actually take these elected groups like your council, they go on retreats where they actually teach them. They say, hey, listen, you're not supposed to fight with each other. You're supposed to go along to get along, right? Now, it's possible to elect people with some, I don't know, backbone. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, backbone. I got a lot of backbone myself. And it is possible, but you really need to work to find those people because people will turn on you.
Let me talk about the sheriff. I want to direct you to your local sheriff because under our legal system, both legally and by tradition, the sheriff is the top law enforcement officer anywhere here in the country. And that's a good thing. You may have a rotten sheriff, but it's a good thing because they are elected and they will respond to the public. They're already trying to do away with the sheriffs. I believe it's New Jersey, maybe? Where they're trying to do away with the sheriffs, okay? Don't let them do this. In fact, cultivate your local sheriff. Because look at me, when the banks come and they're going to repossess somebody's home, the sheriff should be the one to say, let's see your paperwork and let's see if it's proper. Most of the stuff, because of the housing bubble and the derivative market, it is not legal, it's bogus. But they're running people out of their homes because nobody knows any better, and the sheriffs will enforce it just as a matter of course. If you would elect a sheriff who's looking out for you, and somebody's going to be repossessed, if they can't show them the proper chain of evidence and paperwork, the sheriff can tell the bank, sorry, go do something else. So cultivate your local sheriff.
Yeah. All right.
Got another question?
My name is
Can we get house lights up so we can see?
I was going to say, Bill, can you bring the house lights up a little bit? We're going to light up the theater a little bit. We've got a lot of people here that want to ask a question, so try to make it concise and quick, okay?
Great, that's better.
My name is Ben White. I moved to Lockhart about 3.5 years ago with my wife. We moved because we were trying to find a place to live, and we got involved in our community, and we wanted a smaller community so we could know our neighbors, look people in the eye, and not live in the big city Austin area. We got involved with this volunteer group, and I was most recently elected president of this volunteer group, which is called Imagine Lockhart, which is kind of funny. So I am the current president of Imagine Lockhart, and my question is, I had a question about the word sustainable and how that seems to be a very negative connotation word because of Agenda 21. However, the idea of being sustainable is a great idea, and that's one reason I like the idea of being in a small community where you can actually grow your own food and be a part of the community and not rely on the federal government or the state government or even the local government to provide for you. So, in my opinion, that's not a bad word. What I have a problem with now is I'm involved with a group of people who are wanting to be a part of the community and wanting to do this, and we're working on the farmers market and trying to get more people involved with that. And I was elected as president of Imagine Lockhart because I was volunteering, as was my wife, and a bunch of other people. I understand that some people are involved with things, getting grants, which I hate grants. I don't want to get grants from a federal entity or even a state entity at this point. So, and we don't even need the money. All we need is more community involvement. So, my question is, and also a challenge, I guess, is why are we making this about words and about titles, and why aren't we making it about the fight, which is getting the UN and the federal government and just government entities in general out of our business and letting us live freely?
Okay, I got you. Okay, here's the deal. You've got, okay, this is cool. You know, you want to grow your own food, you want to hang out with your neighbors, you want to create real community. And, but here's how this works, is that with transit villages and food sheds, you literally will not be able to get food that is not grown locally. And so this is actually part of Agenda 21's transition movement, sustainability plans like this. They sound great. And of course, you know, I don't actually have anything on that's new. My partner she's a builder. She built a 2-story house out of recycled materials. It's not like we're not into recycling and creative reuse. What I'm saying is that these plans are designed to actually, they give the illusion of community and the illusion of local control. But what they are designed to do is actually restrict you to specific areas. This is neo-feudalism. You will find that you are in a region and that okay, for a while you're going to grow your own food, but then they're going to jack your water costs up. And you're not going to be growing your own food.
So I guess the question would be, is how do we use our local community and the people that want to be involved locally to correspond with other people? I'm also precinct chair because I want to be involved. And so that involvement, how do I translate that into action locally? Because I think that's where it has to start, is our local
Hey, why don't you make those flyers and hand them to your friends who are in your sustainability group? Get this information out. Sustainability, the idea of sustainability is a green mask, okay? This is what I just spent the last hour and a half talking about. I know that you really dig your friends, you really want to create, security and food, this is about loving your environment and about loving your friends and your neighbors, and you want to be independent. This plan takes away your independence. It creates dependence. And it has this mask, which makes it look like it's all going to be really great, right? The vision of the glorious future. So the reality is, maybe in the temporary interim term, you will be growing your own food and you're not going to eat. And you're not going to be surviving on what you're growing. You're not growing enough food to actually live on that food. What it is that local sourced food is actually going to be where all of your food comes from. If it's not local, you won't be eating it. And that is the plan. This is about neo-feudalism.
And no dictator ever got power by saying, I want to be dictator. I want to kill people and I want to control your life. It's always about saving the country, or better yet, saving the children. Okay?
I know it always sounds so good, or we wouldn't be falling for it. It didn't sound this great.
Exactly. And think about the basics. Democracy. We don't want a democracy. Democracy is a lynch mob. We were given a democratic republic, which is a nation of laws. And I ask you today, are we a lawful nation, or are we a lawless nation? We are a lawless nation because we have fallen under democracy, which is nothing but rule by the majority. And if you control the 5 corporations that control the media, you control the majority. Okay?
That's it.
It's that simple.
When they're talking about us in that media, right?
That's
what are
right.
they saying? You're going to read that in the newspaper? What are you going to read about tonight? You're going to read about a bunch of Tea Party right-wing nutcases talking about some freaky, tinfoil hat conspiracy, and, this phony Democrat was up here talking about it. That's what you're going to read, right? Hey, you got the press here? Is that what you're going to write?
No, I want to clarify his question, because his question is, he can hand out and give the information out
participate in their game. You know, nobody's stopping you right now from growing food in your yard. And if you want to have a farmer's market, that's a nice thing. But what you want to do is look at the philosophy behind this and look at the consensus design for the entire plan. In fact, look at the structure for what you're doing. You know, who are you? Are you determining the rules and regulations for an entire area when most people have no idea even who you
So
are?
in theory, that would be to move your group out of where they say you can do that and do it and keep it.
No, I say first thing is education. Educate yourself, then educate your group, and then have your group go out and educate the zombies out there that are sitting there glued to the TV.
Yeah, you got people, let's use them. You know, you can, after you're done watering your plants, get out there and put this information in the public.
But the good news is that there's more of us than there are of them.
Yeah.
Okay, the bad news is we're all been asleep at the switch. I can't tell you how many times over the years as a journalist, newspaper man, I've heard, we'll leave it to Washington. Well,
Yeah.
we did, and look where it got us. So you're going to have to start operating locally and taking charge of your own life.
I have a question with a few inputs too. I'm a retired Navy captain, and in my retirement, I basically went out of retirement, got to save our country. The current disarmament assault from the UN on the Second Amendment. This really got started in the U.S. in September 26, 1961, when John Kennedy signed into law a disarmament plan for the U.S. and the world. So this has been going on for a very long time. But you got to get out and get involved, like you said. 912 group of Central Texas did candidate forums last year, interviewing everybody that was running locally and in the regions. And one of the people that we got behind was Tom Maynard, because he was the only one in the forum when we asked what's the problem with education. The answer was federal intervention.
It was what?
Federal intervention.
Uh-huh.
It started in the 60s when I was in high school. I could see it happening.
Yeah.
The good thing is that he's been assigned to the committee that investigates CSCO. He's part of the SBOE. So part of the solution is to not alienate yourself from these people that we want to get rid of, but is to get involved.
Well, that's true, but, you know, I agree with you, but then you really want to understand who it is that you're fighting and what the fight's about. Because,
you have to get in there and stop what they're doing and get it back to our constitutional republic.
That's right.
And get the principles back. One of the problems we have in Georgetown is a sheriff who doesn't believe in the Scalia ruling in 1996, where the sheriff was first. There are sheriffs out there who aren't doing their job. And it's important that we make sure we elect the right people.
Well, you know what? One thing, I can't remember who it was who said this, that, you know, you can't, it's not that easy to elect good people. To make bad people do the right thing. And this is our job as an informed electorate.
I say God interested voters would give us candidates.
But the key thing is what you're saying is action. There's several groups of us. Once a week now, we're showing up to the legislature.
Excellent.
In their offices, telling them where they need to go,
Where they need to go. You know what?
bills they need to pass.
This terrifies. This literally, you know, of course, I am a liberal Democrat, right? And I think the Tea Party is great. 912 is great.